Let's go live. And okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. I am continuing on with, well, first of all, let me just say I hope that everybody is having a wonderful day or evening or, whatever time of day it is when you see this. Secondly, I have said that I was going to share books that I read in hopes that it is helpful. I know everybody doesn't always like to pick up a book and read it, which I get it. So I figure if I come across some pretty good reads that may be beneficial, who am I to keep these wonderful gems to myself? So I came in the other day and started with this book, and the first chapter I thought was pretty good. I will say I'm streaming to Instagram, YouTube, and to Facebook. And apparently a part of my video on Instagram got cut off. I'm guessing because I was just reading and they deemed it as, I don't know, maybe it's some copyright stuff or what have you. So I think a way for me to prevent it is to read some and then I have to like break the reading and talk just a little bit and then I can read more. So I will do that. The good thing is these chapters are not really long and I'm only reading one chapter each time I come in here. So there you have. I said that I'm streaming to 3 different places. That's why my eyes are all over the place. I'm gonna come back in here for some other conversations later, but I gotta get going. All right. So I left off on chapter 2. Chapter 2 is called A Life of Sabotage. There's nothing quite so damaging as the human desire to be right. When I talk about self-sabotage, what do I mean specifically? Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary defines sabotage as destructive or on by a civilian or enemy agent to hinder a nation's war effort, or an act or process tending to hamper or hurt. B, deliberate subversion. But in this case, sabotage isn't apparently committed by an enemy agent, or is it? Maybe the enemy agent is you, yourself. This is sabotage committed by us against ourselves, and it can subvert just about everything good in our lives. It is a deliberate subversion, though, completely deliberate. That's interesting. Um, you can probably think of some examples of self. It's always much easier to measure the decline of others than your own. That is so true because I think that we spend a lot of time focusing on what other people do, how other people move, the things you doing. It's so funny that people remember the Bible verses that apply to what someone else is doing wrong in their life, and they seem to forget the scriptures that apply to what they're doing wrong in their lives. So yeah, I agree with drug or alcohol addiction, stuck in a cycle of destruction he couldn't seem to break free from, or maybe an old friend who lost their savings, their house, and even family to compulsive gambling and the burden of debt. Then there's the sibling who binges on crappy food and their weight is hopelessly out of control and even their life is now in very real danger. Or the nephew who still lives with mom and dad in his 20s, 30s, or 40s, shunning real world independence, accomplishment, and growth, and choosing a digital escape of video game conquest and internet porn. Hell, some of this might be what you're dealing with yourself. These are all obvious examples of self sabotage. But what about examples? Maybe you're reading this and thinking you're not that badly affected. Surely you have your hangups and your vices. You like to achieve more at work or find a good partner or shave a smidgen of excess living off that tiny corner of your left ankle. Okay, it's a spongy layer of fat clinging onto your gut like a panicky squid, but I'm being nice here. Oh gosh. You have goals of reading more, watching less TV, or getting in better shape, but your behavior isn't nearly as self destructive as in these examples, right? But here's the thing, the sabotage I'm talking about isn't limited to those blatantly obvious examples. It's also something that happens in lots of little ways throughout the day. It's something we all do, and we're doing it pretty much all the time. It can be something as simple as constantly hitting that snooze button in the morning, or the tendency to show up a little late to places you're scheduled to be. That is so true. Okay, hold on. Not so late that it becomes a major problem, but you still find yourself rushing out the door as you shove your feet into your untied shoes and arriving 5 or 10 minutes later than you like. Sometimes it looks like skipping breakfast and settling instead for a candy bar. Or maybe you're one of those people who chronically procrastinate but always manage to get things done at the last minute. So you don't think too much of it, living on the edge, huh? I am definitely guilty of some of this stuff. How's that working out for you? It becomes a headache. For me, getting places on time has been a thing for me, but what's interesting, it depends on what it is. It really depends on what it is. And I know I've noticed that a stickler for time, and he he's always prompt. And I think that it became annoying growing up. And I get it. I wish I would have had the tools, or maybe was just more inclined to see the value earlier on in being prompt and on time, like seriously understanding how that connects to a lot of other aspects. Or maybe, if my parents could have shown more of the value or explained more of the value, I would have taken it a different way. Because for a while, against time, against like banks and constraints. And now I am attempting to reestablish what I was taught when I was a little girl, because I have people coming behind me, and I now know the value of time. So I know that I likely self-sabotage myself in the space of being places on time. And I also learned that I connected more value to other people's stuff and being on time with their stuff than with being on time, or valuing time the same with my stuff, which also took me to another level of having to start peeling back. Well, what is it about you that you don't value with you like you will somebody else? So all these different layers you can go to if you're willing to, once you start on your journey of really looking at yourself with a honest set of eyes. Um Okay, so there are probably examples in your relationships too. Think about the times when you argue over nothing, hold on to grudges too long, hide or lie about your emotions, judge yourself or others too harshly, or just don't call your mom or dad or friends as much as you should. Surely that's not self sabotage. The straight of it is, these are all actions that diminish relationships over time. Hmm. They eat away at and destabilize healthy connections with the people we care most about, sometimes to the point where we no longer care about them. That's deep. That's deep. I have to do another video on communication with family and communication with friends. I have so many different thoughts about that topic, and that might be a good topic to invite some other people on to talk about. I like to talk to people, so I'm hoping that if I do this long enough and I provide enough value to you all that you would love to engage with me, because I love having conversations. Like that to me is a big way of learning about one another and sharing what we know or what we don't know. So that would be a good topic to talk about. Um, we become disconnected from the people we care about and we feel justified. Oh boy, are we justified? There's nothing quite so damaging as the human desire to be right. And first of all, let me again just remind anybody who's watching, I'm stopping through reading this chapter because when I read the first chapter on Instagram, they cut my volume off throughout the video. So I'm guessing if I break this up and have my own content too, then the video on Instagram will stay going. But I'll say nothing quite right to be right. A human desire to be right. I was raised, my dad would always be like, "Are you trying to win or be right?" That was a big part of my deciding factor with making decisions when I was interacting with people. Do you want to win or be right? Now, again, this is a topic for another time, but what I learned as I got older is it didn't have to just be between being right or winning. At the same time, it was very helpful to take the perspective of like, what is your interaction that you're attempting to have? What are you trying to have as your outcome? So that's just an aside. Um, on the other end of the spectrum are the people who will cheat on or break up with their partner on a whim as a convoluted way of protecting themselves from being hurt in the future. Other people will become obsessively jealous over imagined affairs, creating discontent and disconnect so that there's no relatedness left. You might be someone who has done this. Okay. You might be someone who has done this. How did that turn out for you? There is such a thing as a self fulfilling prophecy, even if it's not as mysterious or glamorous as we sometimes read about. Sometimes it just looks like imploding our relationships. With regard to our health, self sabotage can manifest itself in the ways we eat all the wrong stuff at all the wrong times, how we put off our exercise plans or use the excuse of getting caught up in the mundane details of our daily lives to explain our lack of action. I knew a lot of people could relate to that. We might give ourselves excuses to have just one cigarette or glass of wine or slice of cheesecake, which of course turns into more. Skip back to our body and what it's aren't extreme. They're often subtle. So doing or why we're doing it. Even realize these actions are a problem, we don't understand that they're part of a pattern that's carrying us in a predictable direction, the kind of pattern that keeps you perpetually weaving the life you currently have. I wonder, I talk a lot about being on my journey, and I have like there's points in time. I know when I really became intentional about my journey. I mean, to me, life is a journey, but like once you acknowledge that you are on a journey, and journey, in my opinion, being, like adventure, experience, um, sensation, things will feel scared, they'll feel exciting, they'll feel new, they'll feel enlightening, they'll feel like be prepared for work during your journey, be prepared for heavy lifting, be prepared for introspection. To me, when I say journey, it's like filled with all of that. And I wonder, um because I hear a lot of people talking about their journey too, which I think is great. And I just wonder what that means to a lot of people. When you say you're on your journey, is this another video? I'll have to do another video on this, but what does it mean when you say you're on your journey? What does that mean for you? Because I tie that also to people when we say like I'm working on myself, or like I'm figuring my stuff out. What does that mean in terms of action? And what does that mean for you in terms of really, really going there? Because at the end of the day, like your reality is the sum total of you, like what you think, what you say, what you engage in. So the only way that that stuff changes is if you're willing to change some stuff up. So I'm just curious of when people say that, what does that actually mean for them? Um, okay, let me go back. Streams. Okay, so skipping one little dentist appointment or having one extra piece of chocolate cake isn't a big deal, right? Wrong. What if that's part of a bigger plan, one that you're not keyed into, at least consciously? You see, this self-sabotage thing is a product of something larger, and it's affecting every part of your life. There's a reason why so few make it out of the trap of their own mind. The trap all too often seems to be just fine from day to day. Step back a step or 20 and not so much. It's little wonder that those big dreams of yours seem nearly impossible. You've made it just to get out of bed in the morning. Ooh, ooh, that's a smack. That's a smack. Okay. That's a smack because I think that it is necessary for you to break things down to like moment, and we can have these lofty goals and visions. I want to be a trillionaire. I want to save the world, be the superstar. I want to be go to the NBA. I want to, like there we have lofty dreams and goals and all of that stuff. But how you gonna do that if you won't even get out of bed? How you gonna do that if you're not willing to say no to that piece of chocolate cake? Or how you gonna do that if you're not willing to keep your mouth shut in that moment? Or how you gonna do that if you're not willing to go and work out? Or how you gonna do that if you're not willing to pick up a book? Or how you gonna do that? Like and I did a video where I was talking about how I watch a lot of I have a lot of people that I admire from afar, and I watch their videos where they might be talking about, like Will Smith talks about how he will outwork anybody. He'll die on a treadmill before someone will outwork him. And a lot of the conversation that he's having is like on a macro level, which I understand because he's having a conversation. But I often wonder, like, okay, what does that mean on a what's today? 23rd. Is it the Wednesday? Is it Thursday? What does that mean on a Thursday afternoon at 2:09? Like, what does I will outrun or outwork anybody look like in the day-to-day, moment to moment? Because to me, hearing more about that is is very important, because it's easy to think that people became successful in these big moments, like it was one day it was nothing and then it was just all this stuff, but that's not how life works. It's a progression. So that means that on Thursday when he had a headache and him and his wife were arguing and his kids were acting a fool, he still had to sit his butt down and practice his script for the movie, even though he couldn't tune out the background noise and the lights were about to get cut off. You know what I mean? Like, just hearing more and more about what those little moments are because I think then we will make more of a connectivity point between getting up in the morning without hitting the snooze button and ha- and and me being able to achieve this lofty goal of becoming a millionaire. Then you will see more value in getting through each of those little steps and you won't diminish them, at least for me. So what if there's a bigger part? Okay. You see, the self sabotage thing is a product of something larger and it's affecting every part of your life. Okay, I read that. There's a reason why so few make it out of the trap of their own mind. The trap all too often seems to be just fine from day to day. I read that. Okay. Step back, a step. Wait, okay, let me see. It's little wonder that those big dreams of yours seem nearly impossible given how challenging you've made it just to get out of bed in the morning. I mean, really? On one hand, you talk about wanting to be an author or a business owner or going back to school, while at the same time, you've reduced your life's potential to the lofty aim of getting up at the first alarm buzz or fighting the meaningless battle of prizing yourself away from your cell phone a little more often. But ask yourself, if you really wanted to advance in your career, why would you be giving up all your attention to crappy little problems like not being able to get up in the morning? Why are you getting wrapped up in petty, no difference crap rather than the kinds of issues and actions that are going to move mountains, that are going to authentically engage you with real progress, real accomplishment, and real purpose? If you really wanted to have a great love in your life, why in the hell would you keep nitpicking your relationship to death until that connection decays right in front of your eyes? Boom. Boom. If you really wanted to get healthier or lose weight, why would you keep screwing around in such ordinary and uninspiring ways when it comes to making the changes you say you want to make? You just can't keep responding in ordinary ways if you are truly out to live an extraordinary life. And again, I think that a part of it is diminishing the value of what makes up your life. Your life is made up of moments. Your life is made up of moments. And if you don't see the value in having extraordinary moments so that you can have an extraordinary life, then you're not going to have it. And it will be an ordinary life, but you want an extraordinary one. Um, there has to be a potent demand on yourself to rise, to reach for greatness when compelled to take your typical low road route. And there's no magic potion for that demand. It's not a feeling or an attitude. It's more like a sick of your own nonsense approach to certain areas of life. If that deflates you, look again. It needs to enliven and inspire you. Yeah, that's another thing. It can be scary to realize that the power is really in your hands. Like it I think that it's real easy to blame everybody else for your circumstances and your situation. One, because you don't have to stop and look at yourself, but once you start and look at yourself, then you realize, wait a minute, like my life is legit the result of me, regardless of my circumstances, regardless of how my parents treated me or didn't, if they were there or not, or my siblings, or if I had money or poverty, or lived in a hood or lived in a great neighborhood, or blah, blah, blah. Regardless of all of that, at the end of the day, my life is determined by me. And that is scary when okay, a perspective could be that that's scary because you have no one else to blame or to take the credit but you, which also means that you're going to have to level up in areas that you may not want to if you want to have a certain quality of life. And a lot of people don't want to take on that ownership. I think because a lot of people don't have the confidence in themselves and in what they really want and are feel like they're able to accomplish. So, but I get where if you can break into why do I not trust my intuition? Why do I not trust my thoughts, my decisions, my abilities, my capabilities, my like my ability to go and acquire skills and stuff like that? Why don't I trust that? I think that if you break into that and you solve that, then the perspective of, am I loud? I apologize if I'm loud. Then the perspective of, okay, it's my life. I am in total control. I can write this book to be whatever I want it to be. That is exciting. Then you can look at that from a positive, uplifting, there's no, I mean, there's limitations, but there's essentially no limitations type of thing. But I think that in order for you to get to that space, you have to be willing to delve into how you really, really feel, um, and heal places and go places that you may not have wanted to go in your past, and things, and maybe even change your relationships. Like it becomes this whole thing that a lot of people are not really excited to go and start doing. Um, there has to be okay, right. It's not a feeling, it's an attitude. It's more, it needs to enliven and inspire. Okay, telling yourself the truth is rarely easy, see? But it's a surefire way to free yourself from your own self-conscious self-sabotage trap. That's kind of what I was saying. What makes self reflection challenging is that you're both the con artist and the one being conned. Yes, you know you best. You know you best. You know you best. You see, we chalk the problems of our lives up to things. Either we believe there's a failure in our character or we blame our problems on external factors. We think it's just a matter of trying harder or getting lucky or knowing more. We think we just didn't start the right business, meet the right person, or find the right diet. In reality, what we consciously think we want isn't lined up with what we are actually driven to do in the depths of our subconscious. In reality, what we consciously think we want isn't lined up with what we are actually driven to do in the depths of our subconscious. Again, to me, that's taking your macro level thoughts and your macro level dreams and aspirations and ideas and bringing that down to a moment's level, because then you can see where things are not matching up. Um, in Marcus Aurelius's personal writings to himself, which later became the famous philosophical work Meditations, he noted that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Yeah, see, what we're going to do, not today, but this bad boy right here, this is another one. This is another one that we're going. I think I read this book like 3 different times at 3 different points in my life, and I always get something different from it. The power of your subconscious mind. So we're going to delve into this one too. Uh, okay. In our modern age, our soul is a tie-dyed fabric of all the thoughts and impressions and dreams we've had or have been given since we were babies. In the same way the dye seeps into the fabric, these thoughts are deeply embedded in our mind, in our subconscious. And it's all too often not the color we want it to be. That color you've dyed your soul, that embedded in the back of your mind and your subconscious is what determines your path through this life. It's not your determination, circumstances, and most definitely not your luck. Luck is for those who cannot define their success. And if you cannot clearly define it, you will most likely never be able to repeat it. Um, Tours, an introduction. If you want to start doing something about your not so private little head, you'll need to first systematically uncover and then go about interrupting the conversations you have with yourself. Again, a willingness to go there with yourself. Like, you got to be willing to delve into your world of you. Like, and again, you are the con artist and you're the person being con. So you know if you are going there with yourself or not. You know that. Not surface thoughts, but rather the repetitive, profoundly detailed cage and guide your every thought and emotion, the stuff under the rug. This will allow you to finally see your three saboteurs, three simple internal statements that do real and lasting damage to you and your life. The three saboteurs are the fundamental conclusions you have come to about yourself, the other people in your life, and life itself. I know you might find it hard to believe that your entire existence is unraveling because of three simple internal statements, but it is. And in these pages, I'll help you uncover not only why this is happening, but also what your unique statements are. How did you end up with your three saboteurs? We'll get to that. How do they impact your life beyond the obvious? We'll get to that too. How do you get yourself out of this crap? Oh, we'll get to that one. Trust me. For those of you who, why, the hell out of life, that can be me. I like to know. I have some answers for you too, although that incessant search for the answers is in many ways why the question is never satisfied. Oh, that is so true for me. I have fallen into, I'm so hot, hold up. I have fallen into analysis paralysis many of times, looking for the answer to something, and then I go and find the answer to that, but then that leads me to ask something else, and then I have to go and figure that out, and then I go look for another answer, and then I go find something else, and next thing you know, I am on this just journey of where am I going? Where, like, it's crazy. So that is so me. I continue to work on learning how to balance the need to know, the faith walk, and okay, you got enough information to make your move. You need to make your move right now. That's another reason why I buy into what T. Harv Eker talks about. He says that when you think of something that you want to do, especially an idea or something new, you have literally seconds to put something into action before you start to sabotage that idea, before you start to go into straight up primal survivor mode and you go into fearing the unknown and you knock it and you don't do it. So, or in my case, before I knock it and don't do it, I go into the analytical mode of asking 50,000 questions about it and what if and this and that. And then eventually I walk myself right into, maybe that's not something that I need to do right now after all. So this is so true. Um, Why? Oh, please. I am out to unveil the inner workings of what makes you sabotage. We'll start at the beginning of your life and work our way to the very point of the spear. Today, in the first few chapters, we set the stage for why human beings would even have a propensity for sabotage in the first place. But it's safe to say your penchant for your life didn't happen in a vacuum. Certain things had to happen in your life in a particular sequence, some of which are common to all human beings, some that are unique to you. We'll uncover what these are for you. This will take some time, and as you move through the chapters, you might find yourself wiped out or in a state of confusion or fear. That's fine. The important thing is that you do not check out. Push through. On the other side of that state is a life you've always wanted to get to, but somehow never could, really. I now focus way more on completion as opposed to perfection. I focus on as opposed to just like the first part of it, the planning and the creation. Although it's important, I have when Joe and I, my husband, when Joe and I, when we are going through stuff, or like we'll have a game plan that we're just it's moving, like things are moving, right? And then something happens, life happens, right? It's easy to get discouraged in this moment. It really is easy to want to get discouraged in this moment, but what can we do to not fall victim to that? And our theme, if you will, is keep moving. Keep moving. Like, even when stuff gets hard, when you get afraid, when things are uncertain, when things suck, like when they just straight up suck, if you can just focus on just keep moving. I don't even know if the step I'm taking is like the best step, but I know that it's better for me to take a step than to not move anymore. I know I know the worst thing I can do is to quit on myself. So the only thing that I can do, even in the moments when I'm not motivated, I don't feel positive, if I keep moving, then that automatically negates and cancels out the quit. And for me and for Joe, that has helped us so much with progression, but also with regaining confidence in self, that you won't quit on yourself. You won't be a quitter. Um, so just some food for thought when you're having those moments, because the moments are gonna come. And I believe that the more and more you keep going, you keep moving, you keep activity happening, then you strengthen your ability to handle tough moments in better ways. So something worth putting into your toolbox. Okay, I'm drawing a line in the sand with you right here. You might discover that the effort you put into these pages is commensurate with the effort you have put into your life. That statement alone could change a life or not. And that's also why, instead of me hopping around different books and reading with you guys, I'm just going to stick with this book. We're going to get through this book and then I'll go to the next book. Get your head out of the sand or your navel or wherever you currently have it buried, and make whatever you are reading here make a difference for you. You can do that at least. Without ambition, one starts nothing. Without work, one finishes nothing. The prize will not be sent to you. You have to win it. And that's by Ralph Waldo Emerson, another person that I love. My stomach is growling. My apologies. I'm hungry. Okay, champs, let's get rolling. So that was chapter 2. Chapter 3 is called The Question. So we'll do that another day. I I I think that this is important, and I'm spending the time doing this and sharing this because I think that we can sometimes focus on a lot of what we think is important to like survive in this world. People want to be successful. A lot of people want to have enough money to just not have to worry about things. And um people like to have status, and people like to have attention and feel connected and be a part of, and um like community. All of that stuff is real, is true, is important and whatever, but I just think that there needs to be more and more space and conversation around people dealing with themselves. Like really dealing with themselves, and everybody doesn't have to have a knowing, like a obvious messed up life or situation for you to need to go inside yourself and figure out all of what's going on with you. um and I think that that's also how some people might miss the self-sabotage, because it's easy. I know, let me speak for me. I didn't have a bad upbringing. Had both of my parents, they're married. My sisters, we lived fairly, I mean, like, we didn't live in a mansion, but I didn't live in a shack. I didn't we had our ups and our downs, we had our struggles or whatever. Um, but I knew a lot of other people who had a worse situation than me. Even getting older, you know other people's some of you know other people's stuff a lot more easily now with social media. You can see certain stuff if people are willing to share, and you can get into a space where, for me, I was able to get into a space where you look at someone else's situation to help you to keep yours in perspective. And it's always a space where you can find gratitude, and it's like it could always be worse, and all of that is very true. But I think that sometimes, if you're not careful, that can allow you to dismiss what might be happening in your space, to dismiss what you might need to be working on for yourself in order for you to be the best version of you. It can help you to not be to overreact about your circumstances and to find ways to cope through those down moments. But sometimes I think that it causes us to not realize, like, oh shoot, that is something I need to address. I there is Oh, I do. Why do I do that? That is something that I need to delve into. Maybe that does connect back to something. And yeah, I might have to be willing to look at my parents in a different way just to figure things, or my other family members in a different way, or myself in a different way, just to figure this out. It might not be as picture perfect as I thought, and that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't mean that everybody is all damn to hell. Like, but no one is perfect. And so just being willing to go there with self, I think, is something that can help tremendously in the area of mental health, in the area of these emotional disorders, and physical disorders, and all of these different things. I think that having more conversation on dealing with yourself, which is another reason why I like to share about me and about my stuff and my story, and talk through my process, and um just be another person who shows that everything is not everything is not perfect, but you can still work through things, and you can still figure things out, and still unlock so much about yourself that will help you to deal with what life brings your way. So circumstances that would normally take people out, like some people have left this earth because they have not been able to deal with what was happening for them in their now moment, what was happening for them in their low moment. And again, because it's internal, a lot of times no one else knows what's happening. No one else knows what you're dealing with. And again, because sometimes stuff can come to you and you don't even realize it. Like, have you ever had a day where one minute you're just fine and next minute you feel like crap? Like, you just feel so you feel unmotivated. You might feel sad. Excuse me. Cold. Excuse me. feel unmotivated. Oh, you can't hear me? Ah, hold on. Let's see. Okay. That makes me so upset with Instagram. I really thought that I did this so that my audio came through, but what I was saying was, have you ever had those moments in where you, one minute you can feel great, like you can feel wonderful, and then all of a sudden you feel crappy, like your day just out of nowhere you feel horrible, or you feel depressed, or you feel unmotivated or sad, or, and it's like you just cannot shake it. To me, that's a clear example of how we can have stuff happening inside of us that we did not even realize, and it can take on this energy just like that. And those of us who are not equipped with the tools to deal with ourselves handle it in ways that can be very, very harmful. You know what I mean? And I'm not pretending to know why somebody commits suicide. I'm just, from what I've read and what I have discovered about myself, I just think that there's so much power in us learning how to talk more outwardly about us dealing with ourselves, because then you can start to like barter tools, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, a big thing is when I feel just unexplainably down, I have to go outside. It's much easier for me to deal with feeling down, horrible, sad, mad, discouraged, unpositive, negative, whatever adjective you want to put there. It's easier for me to get through it outside, especially if the sun is out. It is harder for me to beat my energy when it's not in a good space when I am indoors. And I've talked to Joe about this so many times, the walls literally feel like they're closing in on me. I feel suffocated. I feel like there's no escape. So I'm just saying, like, there are people who are they're in their very moment dealing with something that you can't see. Like you can't see it. They didn't even know it was going to come onto them. But if there was more conversation and more space and more of the light at the end of the tunnel and dealing with that energy that comes, Pima Chodron calls it Shimpa, then I would wonder if some people who did make a permanent decision for a temporary moment may have made a different decision because they felt like they had some tools with in that moment. I hope I didn't go too deep with that, but I'm very passionate about it because I mean, you look at a lot of what happens around the world, and to me, a lot is tied up with people not being able to really sort through what's happening in themselves in that very moment. So we'll go more into that later. I'm so mad that half of my video got cut off on Instagram. I'm streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. My YouTube, I'll put up my YouTube channel if you guys want to see the all of the video, but I'm trying not to keep this too long because I want to be able to come back and do chapter 3. I got to figure out how to do this book, how to read a chapter in Instagram without them cutting me off. So I don't know, I'll figure it out. But I hope that, what's up Jason, hey Elliot, I hope that what you heard was beneficial. Those of you who saw it on Instagram, I hope that whatever you heard was beneficial, and whatever you didn't hear, you could go to youtube.com/all me carry. That's my page on YouTube. Or my link is in the bio. to my YouTube page or on Facebook. Again, I read chapter 2 from Stop Doing That Shit in Self-Sabotage and Demand Your Life Back. Great conversations to be had. I hope to get to a point where I can get people to come and let's talk and let's engage. Still figuring all this stuff out. This me showing up on lives consistently and me posting videos and editing and all of that and managing that with who I am in the day to day has been a struggle for me. I'm being careful with my words. It's been a journey for me, so I'm still building this plane while I'm flying it. Those who rock with me, I appreciate it. I'm just, you know, out here attempting to give what I'm out here to give and to receive what's here for me to receive. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day. We are getting closer and closer to Christmas for those who celebrate. So I hope that everybody, if I don't come, that people really, I'm not trying to start a whole conversation about the pandemic, but I just hope that people are really just being mindful of how they are treating each moment. Be mindful of how you're treating your moments and the outcomes that you want to have happen in them. So have a wonderful, stupendous, spectacular, phenomenal, amazing, incredible, joyous, harmonious, awesome, happy day. And if you're watching this at night, I hope you have a wonderful, happy, healthy, stupendous, tremendous, phenomenal, exciting, fantastic, amazing evening. And until next time, be well, everybody. Talk to you soon.